everybody, welcome to today's lesson. My name is Lucia-Rae and I'm going to be your instructor today. I am so excited to have my group of high schoolers here, ages 14 to 18. And today we are going to be learning about compost and the importance of backyard composting. So for today's lesson, our required materials are milk jugs. Any size will do, larger is better. We have a bucket full of brown materials, which are carbon rich, several handfuls of green materials, which are nitrogen rich, and we got some scissors as well. So our objectives for the lesson today are to be able to construct your very own miniature at-home compost bucket. We are going to learn about the difference between greens and browns in the compost and be able to differentiate between the two. You'll understand the social implications of composting, and you will understand what you cannot put in the compost. So to begin, I would like everybody to center themselves through a couple seconds just of a deep breath to really center yourself in your space. So with me, I'd like everybody just to take a deep breath. Now that we are centered, just by a silent raise of hands, I'm interested to know what people's experience is with compost, whether you have a bunch of experience, maybe not so much experience, what your experience has been like. Silent raise of hands. Some people have some experience, some have none. So that's an awesome range of knowledge for today's lesson. So to begin with, I would like everybody to grab your milk jug. It should look something like this before it's been cut. And grab your scissors as well. I have a couple pairs in case people need to borrow them. And I got a couple extra milk jugs just in case. So I am going to pass around these guys just in case anybody needs a pair of scissors or a milk jug. And I'm going to start off by just showing you all how I cut off the top of this guy. So using one of my smaller milk jugs here, I am going to go ahead and I'm going to cut down this crease here right until kind of either the end of the handle or just where it starts to curve. Either way is fine. Just need plenty of room to be able to layer our materials. So I'm going ahead and cut this here all the way around. So this should be your final product. It's okay if it's not perfectly cut. So I am going to use my larger one to demonstrate so you can have a better visual. So beginning with the layering of our compost, while I talk a little bit about the importance of greens and browns and what they both contribute to the compost and the overall compost final finished product. So to begin with here, I have my browns, which are carbon rich. If anybody was thinking that or guessed that correctly, great job. If not, that is a-okay. We are here to learn. You do not have to be an expert to learn. Very important. So I have my browns. So browns consist of things like dried leaves, some sorts of manures. Other manures don't count as browns. And we have some wood chips. You can use sawdust. Anything that's kind of dry straw is another good one. So I'm going to go ahead and place my carbon-rich materials at the very bottom of my little jug here. Now, in terms of why carbon is important, carbon is the building block. It is the base of our compost. It is kind of the most prominent material in the compost. Ideally, you have a 3-to-1 ratio, so you should have 3 parts of carbon or brown materials to every 1 part of green materials or nitrogen-rich materials. So once you have this first layer here, I'm going to go ahead and layer some coffee beans on top of that, kind of create a transition. Excuse the wind. And then, moving forward, I'm going to take my green materials. So I have some old cilantro here, and I'm going to just place that on top of my browns. So greens, as we have here, consist of things like leafy vegetables, produce, fruits, anything like that. Additionally, you can use things like fresh leaves, lawn clippings, like grass, things like that, and chicken manure as well. So I'm going to take this. I have a lime here. I got some calcium-rich eggshells. I'm gonna kind of crush those up a little bit. I have leftover part of an egg from this morning's breakfast. So nitrogen-rich materials are key in the compost. They play a crucial role for all of the little microorganisms that actually come in and do all of the breaking down in the compost. They feed those enzymes, they feed the micro and macroorganisms that come in and actually turn all of this produce and old produce into what we know as compost, which is black gold. So I'm going to keep on layering here. And I am going to take some more browns. I got some leaves, some old dirty wood chips with me here. I'm going to layer those. And I'm also going to touch on things that cannot go in the compost. So things that can't go in the compost are things like meat and meat derivatives. So like bones, any sort of dairy products, and fish. So you might be thinking, well, those are organic, natural products as well. And that while that's true and they can go into industrial composting, the way that backyard composting works is we rely solely on the natural elements and those macro and microorganisms, which means that any sort of meat product is going to attract unwanted critters, and it's going to disrupt this beautiful ratio that we've worked so hard to create. So I have these, and I'm going to keep layering. Another thing you cannot put in the compost is plastic and metal. So while it would be nice to say, wow, I just have all this here, you really can't throw trash in the compost. So I'm going to very carefully take off my little sticker here, and I'm going to put my orange in. I'm gonna put my slimy lime in. I got some old tangerines as well. So I'm going to take those and put those in, put some more coffee grounds. Everyone's is looking beautiful so far. Some more of these guys in. I got some peels. So one very important, while you're still layering, one important social implication of composting is that you are doing radical work by diverting your waste from landfills. So we all know landfills double thumbs down, right? Yeah, that seems have a pretty good consensus among all of my students here. So one reason why we want to divert this waste from landfills is because it increases methane production. So when food breaks down, it increases methane. And even if backyard composting just has a little bit of methane production, think about this from a very large, wide, global scale. So from a large, wide, global scale, if we put all of our things in the waste that should be in the compost, that's going to be millions and millions of tons that we are putting in the trash rather than turning into black gold. So while we're doing this, and we're probably coming pretty close to the end, some more coffee grounds in here as well. Kind of putting the last layers here, and even putting in a plastic metal-free tea bag in that's going to break down too. Things like paper can also go in the compost. Those count as greens. I would just like everybody to kind of show off what they've come up with. I'm seeing some beautiful milk jugs. Everything is looking so awesome. Thank you all for bringing your wonderful materials and food scraps from home. So as we're wrapping up today's lesson, I would just like to recap what we've learned and maybe ask you all if things have shifted for you, what's changed in terms of how you perceive compost. So just to recap our objectives, we learned how to create our very own miniature at-home compost bucket. We touched on one main important social implication of composting, which is diverting waste from landfills. We learned about greens and browns, so the carbon-rich and the nitrogen-rich, or the other way around, rather. And we learned what can and cannot go in the compost. So just by a raise of hands, I'm seeing that some people's views of composting has changed over the last couple of minutes. And I would just like to take any questions at this time, if anybody has any remaining questions. Looks like we're pretty good. So before you all leave today, I would just like to thank each and every one of you for joining me in creating this. And over the next couple of weeks, we are going to take these home or leave them in the classroom here with me. And each day we are going to come back and notice how they break down over the next couple of days, weeks, and months throughout the rest of the term here on the farm. So again, thank you so much for joining me today. I was your instructor. My name is Lucia-Rae, and I hope everybody has a beautiful rest of their day.